5 years after the fall of the Vorthok Empire, the galaxy had transformed into something completely different from what it had been under alien rule. Over 400 liberated worlds that worked together in peace. The species that had once been enslaved were now free peoples, contributing their unique knowledge and abilities to build a better civilization. The former Vorthok territories had been completely reorganized, with each liberated species given the right to govern themselves while participating in the greater, creating a level of cooperation that had never existed before. The galaxy was more united and prosperous than it had ever been under. Of the species they had oppressed, the worst offenders faced punishment appropriate to their crimes, while those who had shown genuine remorse were given opportunities to make amends through community service. The process had been difficult but necessary to establish the rule of law throughout the galaxy. Engineer Taijin had overseen the construction of the galactic infrastructure network that connected all Alliance worlds through dimensional gateways and communication systems. The network allowed free travel and trade between species while maintaining each world's independence. The technology that had once been used for war was now being used to bring peoples together. Yangsu industrial facilities had been converted to peaceful production, creating goods that improved life for billions of beings across the galaxy. The weapons were now manufacturing tools for construction, education, and exploration. The Alliance had proven that cooperation could achieve more than conquest ever could. The remaining Vorthok population had been relocated to reservation worlds, accepted their new situation, and were working to create a peaceful civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. Exploration fleet that was mapping unknown regions of the galaxy and making contact with new species. The dimensional fold technology allowed the fleet to explore vast areas of space that had never been visited before. Each new discovery brought opportunities for peaceful contact and Alliance membership. Admiral Sung Min had established the Galactic Peace Academy, where representatives from all Alliance species learned conflict resolution and cooperation. The Academy trained peacekeepers who could prevent conflicts before they became wars. The goal was to ensure that no species would ever again face the oppression that any remaining threats. The security forces were made up of volunteers from many different species working together to maintain peace. Dr. So Young had developed was being shared with all Alliance members, allowing each species to benefit from advances in science and technology faster than ever before. Because cooperation had replaced secrecy, Captain Minho established training programs where former had proven successful in helping some aliens transition from oppressors to productive members of society. The process showed that even former enemies could be redeemed. Through proper guidance, Diplomat Hyjin had created the Galactic Council, where representatives from all Alliance worlds could discuss issues and make decisions together. The Council operated on principles of equality and mutual respect with each species, having an equal voice regardless of their size or power. The democratic process had proven much more effective than the Vorthok system of rule by force. Exploration fleets had discovered dozens of new species that had been hiding from the Vorthok Empire. These species were now emerging from isolation and joining the Alliance, bringing new knowledge and perspectives. The galaxy was becoming more diverse and vibrant as hidden civilizations revealed. Causing through their ignorant use of advanced technology, the Alliance had developed methods to repair the damage and prevent future problems. The galaxy was actually becoming more stable as proper dimensional technology was implemented. You had established the Galactic Education Network that allowed all species to learn from each other. The network shared knowledge about science, technology, culture, and philosophy, creating a renaissance of learning throughout the galaxy. The Alliance was not just politically united, but was becoming intellectually united as well. The memorial worlds had been established to honor and the importance of protecting freedom. The memorials ensured that the sacrifices made during the liberation would never be. The contacts had revealed that the Milky Way was not alone, and that other galaxies were interested in peaceful relations. The Alliance was preparing for eventual expansion beyond their home galaxy. The transformation was complete. The galaxy that had once been ruled by fear and oppression was now governed by cooperation and justice. The Vorthok Empire that had seemed invincible had been replaced by something far greater. The species that had tried to enslave humanity had instead created the conditions for their own liberation. Commander Hyunwoo often reflected on the irony of the situation. The Vorthok had attacked Earth. Their attempt to enslave humanity had backfired completely, creating the opposite of what they intended. The Alliance continued to grow stronger as new species joined and contributed their unique abilities. The Dimensional Gateway Network was expanding to connect more worlds, while the communication system allowed instant coordination across vast distances. The galaxy was becoming truly united for the first time in its history. Alliance's most dedicated peacekeepers using their knowledge of oppression to help prevent it from ever happening again. Their transformation from conquerors to protectors showed that even the worst enemies could become allies with proper guidance. And genuine repentance. The galaxy had learned that strength came not from domination, but from cooperation. The Alliance was more powerful than the Vorthok Empire had ever been because it was based on voluntary participation rather than forced submission. The lesson had been learned at great cost, but would ensure lasting peace. As Commander Hyanwu looked out at the stars from his office on the Alliance capital world, he knew that the galaxy would never again face the kind of oppression that the Vorthok had imposed. The species that had tried to enslave Earth had instead created the conditions for universal freedom. The irony was perfect, and the justice was complete. The morning sun rose over Earth like any other day, but this would be the day that changed everything forever. Captain Lee Minho stood on the bridge of the space station, watching the peaceful blue planet below him rotate slowly in the darkness of space. He had been monitoring deep space signals for 3 years and never found anything unusual until today. The computers started beeping with urgent sounds that made everyone on the bridge turn their heads toward the main screen. Was coming toward their solar system, and it was big, really big. Lee Minho felt his heart start beating faster as he watched the radar show hundreds of dots moving through space. Like a swarm of angry insects down on Earth, people were going about their normal lives, buying food, walking to work, playing with their children. Nobody knew that death was racing toward them through the cold, empty space between the stars. The Galactic Council had decided that Earth would be their next conquest, and they expected it to be as easy as all the others. Admiral Keth commanded the Council fleet from his massive flagship that was longer than 10 city blocks and filled with enough weapons to destroy entire moons. He had conquered 47 worlds in his long career, and Earth would be number 48. The reports said the humans had primitive weapons and no unified government, so this would be over quickly. The alien ships moved through space with perfect formation, like soldiers marching in a parade. Each vessel was a work of art, covered in smooth metal that reflected the light of distant stars. The Council had built these ships over centuries using technology that could bend space and time to their will. No species in the galaxy could match their power. When the fleet reached the edge of the solar system, Admiral Keth sent his message to Earth using frequencies that every civilization could understand. His voice was cold and mechanical, like a machine pretending to be alive. The words echoed through every radio and television on the planet, making billions of people stop what they were doing and listen in horror. Surrender now or face total destruction. Admiral Keth announced, your planet has been chosen for incorporation into the Galactic Council. You have 1 day to prepare for occupation. Any resistance will result in the complete elimination of your species. This is your only warning on Earth. The governments of every nation held emergency meetings. Presidents and kings talked through video calls, trying to decide what to do. Some wanted to surrender immediately to save lives. Others wanted to fight, even though it seemed hopeless. The United Earth Defense had been formed just 5 years earlier when scientists first detected alien signals, but nobody thought they would need it. So Sun Captain Park Gi-wan sat in her fighter ship deep inside an asteroid field near Mars. She commanded the first squadron of Earth defense pilots, and her hands gripped the controls so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her ship was small compared to the alien vessels, but it was fast and loaded with the best weapons humanity could build. The human leaders sent their reply through Captain Lee Minho, who had been chosen to speak for all of Earth. His voice was steady and strong, even though he knew the aliens could destroy his world with the push of a button. We refuse to surrender, he said. Leave our system immediately or face the consequences. Admiral Keth and his officers laughed when they heard the human response. These primitive creatures thought they could threaten the mighty Galactic Council. The Admiral had seen this before on other worlds. Species would make brave speeches right before they were crushed into dust. The only difference was that most civilizations surrendered after seeing his fleet. The alien admiral gave the order, and 3,000 warships began moving toward Earth like a tide of destruction. Each ship carried enough firepower to level mountains, and their shields could absorb any weapon the humans might have. The Council had perfected the art of war over 1,000 years, and no enemy had ever survived their full assault. But something strange happened as the alien fleet approached. The inner solar system human ships began appearing from hiding places throughout the asteroid belt and behind the moons of Jupiter. They had been waiting in the darkness, preparing for this moment. Captain Kim Taeyeon led a group of ships that had been disguised as space debris. The aliens had expected to find a few primitive rockets, maybe some nuclear missiles. Instead, they found a coordinated defense fleet. The humans had been preparing for this day ever since they detected the first alien. Signals their ships were smaller and less advanced, but they moved with deadly purpose. Park. Kok Jawan struck first, launching her squadron toward the alien flagship before anyone could react. Her fighters moved like angry wasps, darting between the massive alien ships and striking at weak points they had studied for months. The aliens tried to target the small human vessels, but they were too fast and too unpredictable. The first battle began with explosions that lit up the darkness of space like fireworks. Human missiles found their targets, while alien energy beams carved through the vacuum, trying to hit the darting Earth ships. Captain Nam Hyok commanded a group of ships that attacked from 3 directions at once, confusing the alien computer's. Admiral Keth watched in shock as his perfect formation began to break apart. The humans fought like nothing he had ever seen before. They used tricks and tactics that made no sense, following no rules of honorable combat. His officers reported that the human ships were small and weak, but they seemed to be everywhere at once. Captain Jang Minsu led his stealth ships in a surprise attack on the alien supply vessels. The aliens had never faced an enemy that would target non-combat ships, but the humans understood that war meant destroying everything that helped the enemy fight. His ships moved unseen through space, striking and vanishing like ghosts. The battle raged for hours, with ships exploding and burning metal spinning. Through space, both sides lost many vessels, but the humans kept fighting with a determination that surprised the aliens. Every time it seemed like Earth forces were beaten, another group of ships would appear from a new hiding place. Colonel Choi Yuna coordinated the battle from a command center deep under the mountains of Korea. She had studied every piece of information about alien tactics and found their weakness. They were too predictable. The aliens followed the same patterns in every battle, like a computer program that never changed. The turning point came when Captain Shin Yunbi led a desperate attack on the alien flagship. Her ship was damaged and leaking air, but she kept flying straight toward Admiral Keth's vessel. The alien admiral ordered all weapons to fire at her, but she dodged through the deadly energy beams like a dancer. Captain Shin Yunbi's ship slammed into the alien flagship shield, causing a massive explosion that lit up space for thousands of kilometers. The shield flickered and failed for just a moment, but that was enough. Captain Park Juan and her fighters poured through the gap, striking at the heart of the alien. Command Ship Admiral Keth felt his ship shake as human weapons tore through the hull. His officers ran around in panic, trying to control the damage. The great alien commander who had conquered dozens of worlds was being beaten by a species he had thought was primitive. His ship began to retreat, along with the rest of his fleet. The first battle ended with the humans victorious, but the cost was terrible. Half of Earth's defense fleet was destroyed, and thousands of brave pilots would never return home. Captain Nam Hyok died when his ship exploded while protecting a damaged hospital. Ship Captain Shin Yunbi was pulled from the wreckage of her fighter, badly injured but alive. The alien fleet limped away from Earth. Admiral Keth realized they had made a terrible mistake. These humans were not like the other species the Council had conquered. They fought with a fury and cleverness that seemed impossible. The Admiral began to understand that this war would not be the easy victory he had expected. The people of Earth watched the battle through telescopes and sensors, cheering as the alien ships retreated, but the celebration was mixed with sadness. For those who had died, the war was just beginning, and everyone knew the aliens would return with more ships and deadlier weapons. Captain Lee Minho looked at the debris floating in space where the battle had been fought. Human and alien metal mixed together in a cloud of destruction. He knew this was only the first battle of a war that would decide the fate Of humanity, the aliens had learned that humans were dangerous. But the humans had learned something too: they could win. 3 months after the first battle, the Galactic Council gathered in their Great Hall on the capital world, Zindros. The massive chamber could hold 1,000 beings, and today it was filled with angry voices from every corner of the galaxy. Admiral Keth stood before the council members, his uniform torn and his pride shattered after his defeat at... Like thunder, the other council members nodded their heads in agreement. Some had ruled for centuries and never seen their forces lose a single battle. Admiral Keth tried to explain what had happened. The humans fight without honor, he said. They use tricks and attack supply ships. They do not follow the rules of civilized warfare. General Vex Mortalis stepped forward from the back of the chamber. He was the most feared military commander in the galaxy, a being who had crushed rebellions on 50 worlds. Victories: I will take 10 fleets to this Earth, he announced, and finish what Admiral Keth could not. The council voted to give General Mortalis everything he needed. 30,000 ships would be sent to Earth along with the best soldiers and most powerful weapons in the galaxy. This time there would be no mistakes. The humans would surrender, or they would die on Earth. Choi Yuna studied the reports in her underground command center and felt her blood turn cold. The aliens were coming back with 10 times more ships than before. Captain Jung Minsu stood in the briefing room looking at a map of the galaxy covered with red dots showing alien bases. His mission was simple but deadly: take his stealth ships deep into enemy territory and learn everything he could about their military strength. Most of his team would probably not come back alive. How they think, Colonel Choi Yuna told him. Study their patterns, find their weaknesses. Mission in human history: the journey into alien space took weeks as the human stealth ships moved carefully through systems filled with enemy patrols. To look like space debris on enemy sensors. His crew worked in complete silence, knowing that one mistake would mean death. What they discovered shocked them. The aliens had enormous shipyards on dozens of worlds, building vessels faster than humans could count. But more importantly, Captain Jung Minsu realized that the aliens had never fought a real war for 1,000 years. They had only conquered weak civilizations that surrendered quickly. Lieutenant Commander Shin Yunbi worked day and night in the weapons laboratories on Earth, trying to build better missiles and stronger ship armor. The coming storm: the research teams discovered something important about alien technology and followed the same battle tactics. This meant humans could predict what the aliens would do. Next, Lieutenant Commander Shin Yunbi designed new weapons specifically to exploit these weaknesses. Captain Park Ji-won recovered from her injuries and was given command of the new experimental fighter squadron. Her ships were faster than anything Earth had ever built and carried missiles that could punch through alien shields. The test flights were dangerous, and 3 pilots died during training, but the survivors became deadly weapons. Meanwhile, Captain Nam Hyok's younger brother, Captain Nam Seok, joined the defense force to honor his brother's sacrifice. He commanded a group of ships designed to protect the civilian evacuation routes. If Earth fell, millions of people would need to escape to the colony worlds in other star systems. General Vex Mortalis arrived at the edge of the solar system with his massive fleet and immediately began broadcasting surrender demands to Earth. His voice was like grinding metal as he promised to show mercy if the humans gave up immediately. The people of Earth listened to his threats, but their answer was the same as before. Captain Lee Minho spoke for humanity once again, standing on the bridge of the new command ship built from alien technology captured in the first battle. Earth will never surrender, he announced. We would rather die fighting than live as slaves. His words were broadcast across the galaxy and heard by millions of enslaved beings on other worlds. The second battle began when General Vex Mortalis ordered his ships to attack in perfect formation like a giant spear aimed at Earth's heart, but the humans were ready. Captain Kim Tae-yoon commanded the defense of the asteroid belt, using the rocks as cover for his ambush fleet. The alien general expected another easy victory, but instead found himself fighting an enemy that had learned from the first battle. Human ships appeared from impossible hiding places, striking and vanishing before the aliens could respond. The battle became a deadly game of cat and mouse. Captain Park Gi-won led her new fighter squadron in a high-speed attack on the alien command ships. Alien shields that had never been broken before. Commander Yu Xianho took his ship on a suicide mission to destroy the alien battle platform that was bombarding Earth. He knew he would not survive, but his sacrifice saved thousands of lives on the planet below his ship exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from the surface. Advanced fleet, every time he thought victory was certain, another group of human ships would attack from an unexpected direction. Soldiers used the low gravity to their advantage, bouncing between buildings and striking the aliens from above. Jiang Minsu returned from his spy mission. Just as the battle reached its peak, his ships carried vital information about alien weaknesses that turned the tide of fighting. Failed just like the first, but this time General Vex Mortalis did not retreat. He died when his flagship exploded under concentrated human fire. His death sent shockwaves through the alien fleet, and they finally began to withdraw. The great general, who had never lost a battle, was defeated by the species he had thought was weak. Admiral Song Ji-hoon watched from the command center as the alien ships limped away from Earth. Once again, the humans had won, but the cost was terrible. Thousands of brave soldiers had died, including Commander Yu Sanho and many others. The alien fleets were retreating, but they would might last for years. The aliens had unlimited resources and could keep sending fleets until Earth was destroyed. The humans needed a different strategy. Captain Bay should strike first, take the war to the enemy, and destroy their ability to build ships. It was dangerous and might fail, but sitting and waiting for death was not the human way there. Decision was made in the emergency council meeting. Earth would go on the attack. The age of defense was over, and the age of human conquest was about to begin. The news of Kepler Prime's destruction traveled through the galaxy like wildfire, carried by alien refugees and rebel communication networks on 1,000 enslaved worlds. Beings who had never dared to hope began to believe that freedom was possible. The humans had done the impossible and attacked the heart of Council Power Captain Lim. 200 years, and its people had been forced to dig precious metals from dangerous mines. Many had died in the dark tunnels, never seeing sunlight again. The liberation of Titan VII began at dawn when human ships appeared in the planet's sky. Like falling stars, the alien overseers had grown lazy after centuries of easy rule. They never expected anyone to challenge their authority, especially not the primitive humans from the edge of the galaxy. Captain Lim Dongwu broadcast a message to the enslaved workers in their own language: "We are humans from Earth, and we have come to set you free. Rise up against your masters and join us in the fight for freedom." The response was immediate, as millions of beings poured from the mines carrying tools as weapons. The alien guards were overwhelmed within hours. They had been trained to control unarmed slaves, not fight a full rebellion backed by human military support. The few who tried to resist were quickly defeated by workers who had dreamed of this moment for generations. Major Suojinwook landed with the first human ground forces and was amazed by what he found: someone to show them how to turn their rage into effective resistance. Within days, Major Suojinwook had organized the former slaves into fighting units. He taught them human tactics and gave them weapons captured from alien ships. The new rebels learned quickly, driven by years of hatred for their former masters' news of Titan VII's. Enslaved beings rose up against their alien rulers when they learned that freedom was possible. The rebellion was growing faster than anyone had expected. Commander, united by their hatred of the Galactic Council, the diversity that the Council had tried to suppress became a strength for the rebels. The Council leaders watched their empire crumble with growing panic. They sent emergency fleets to recapture rebellious worlds, but there were too many uprisings happening at once. Their forces were spread across the galaxy, trying to hold together an empire that was falling apart. Admiral Kong Xiaozhen coordinated the rebel activities from his hidden base in the Andromeda Nebula. His job was to make sure the uprisings happened at the same time so the Council could not concentrate their forces. The timing had to be perfect, or the rebellion would fail. Captain Moon Sung-ho led the attack on the Council supply depot at Zarian Station. The massive space station supplied weapons and equipment. Understood how dangerous the situation had become, they fought with desperation, knowing that losing the depot would doom their forces in nearby systems. Captain Moon Sung-ho's ships took heavy losses, but completed their mission. Lieutenant Colonel Park Minjong specialized in training rebel ground forces on newly liberated worlds. Her teams taught former slaves how to fight in organized units instead of angry mobs. The difference was enormous. As disciplined rebel armies began defeating professional Council troops, the psychological impact of the rebellion was as important as the military victories. For the first time in 1,000 years, the galactic Joining the rebels, Captain Jung Min-soo continued his intelligence work deep in Council territory. His spy ships reported that alien morale was collapsing some. Council worlds were surrendering without a fight when human fleets appeared. The empire that had seemed invincible was rotting from within. The Council tried desperately to regain control by announcing that they would negotiate with the humans. Entire system was destroyed. General Ru Hejin took command of the combined rebel forces as they prepared for the final phase of the war. The largest military operation in galactic history, the capital world of Zendros, had been the center of the galaxy for 1,000 years. Its massive cities housed the government buildings where enslaved species came to beg for mercy. The planet's defenses were legendary and had never been tested in serious combatable song. In the Outer Rim was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Captain Wu, being detected, what they found was both encouraging and terrifying. The planet's defenses were incredibly powerful, with weapon systems that could destroy entire fleets, but they had been designed to fight traditional enemies, not the chaotic mix of human tactics and alien rebellion that was coming toward them. Captain Bae Soman recovered from her injuries sustained at Kepler Prime and volunteered to lead the most dangerous part of the assault. Her ships would have to break through the outer defenses to create an opening for the main fleet. The final preparations took weeks as rebel engineers worked to modify ships for the specific challenges of attacking. Zendros' human weapons were combined with alien technology, creating hybrid systems that neither side had ever seen. Before Sergeant Major Quan Minji trained the elite assault troops who would land on the capital world if the fleet battle was successful. Her soldiers came from every species in the rebellion, united by their determination to end Council rule forever. As the massive rebel fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, every being aboard knew they were about to attempt something that had never been done before. The Galactic Council had ruled from Zendros for a millennium, and their capital had never been seriously threatened. Together, these beings from 1,000 worlds had learned to fight as one. The jump to hyperspace began, and the largest fleet in galactic history disappeared into the space between stars, heading toward a final confrontation that would determine the fate of every living being in the galaxy. The rebellion had reached the point of no return. The capital world of Zendros hung in space like a jewel, surrounded by rings of defense stations and weapon platforms that could destroy planets for 1,000 years. This world had been the center of galactic civilization, where the Council ruled over trillions of enslaved beings. Now it faced the largest invasion force in history. General Ru Hejin stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the enemy defenses through the viewing screen. His combined fleet included ships from over 100 different worlds, all united in their hatred of the Galactic Council. The diversity that had once been the Council's weakness was now their strength. The first wave of the attack began when Captain Moon Sung-ho led his fighters through the outer defense ring. His pilots flew ships built by dozens of different species, each with unique capabilities that confused the automated defense systems. The aliens had programmed their weapons to fight traditional fleets, not this chaotic mix of technologies. The defense platforms opened fire with beams of energy that could cut through battleship armor, but the rebel ships scattered in all directions. Like a flock of birds attacked by a predator, Captain Moon Sung-ho had learned from studying human and alien tactics, creating something entirely new. Lieutenant Colonel Park Min-jong commanded the second wave, which included the heavy assault ships designed to break through the main defense line. Her vessels were built like flying fortresses, covered in armor and bristling with weapons. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a city the space around. Zendros lit up with explosions as the battle began. In earnest, rebel ships darted between the massive defense stations, striking at weak points while avoiding the heaviest weapons. The aliens had never faced an enemy that used such unpredictable tactics. In the surface of Zendros, the Council leaders watched the battle from their underground bunkers. They had ruled the galaxy for so long that they had forgotten what it felt like to be afraid. Now their perfect world was under attack by the very beings they had enslaved them. Breakthrough came when Commander Ko In-soo led a desperate assault on the main communication hub. His ship was badly damaged and half his crew was dead, but he managed to reach the target. The explosion that followed knocked out the planetary defense network for crucial minutes. Captain Bae Soman seized the opportunity and led her strike force through the gap in the defenses. Her ships screamed through the atmosphere toward the government district where the Council met. The buildings below were works of art built from the wealth stolen from conquered worlds. The landing was brutal as human and alien rebel troops fought their way through the capital city. The council guards were well trained and equipped, but they had never faced enemies with nothing to lose. The rebels fought with the fury of beings who had waited lifetimes for this moment. An Myong led her assault teams through the council chambers where laws had been made to enslave entire species. The fighting was room by room. As the defenders tried to hold every corridor, the rebels showed no mercy. Remembering all the suffering the council had caused, Captain Wu Jian commanded the troops attacking the central fortress where the council leaders had taken refuge. The building was designed to withstand planetary bombardment, but it had never been tested against enemies who were already inside the defenses. The battle raged through the gleaming towers where the galaxy's rulers lived in luxury built on the suffering of others. Rebel soldiers from worlds that had been enslaved for centuries finally had their chance. For revenge, the council members who had seemed so powerful were revealed to be cowards hiding in bunkers. Sergeant Major Quan Mingi led the final assault team toward the deepest level of the fortress, where Lord Tyrant himself waited the supreme leader of the council had ruled for over 200 years and commanded weapons that could crack planets, but now he faced something he had never encountered before them. Corridor leading to Lord Tyrant's chamber was filled with deadly traps and automated weapons. Many rebel soldiers died trying to reach the heart of council power. But they kept coming wave after wave, driven by the memory of all who had suffered under alien rule. Captain Park Ji-won had recovered from her injuries and joined the final assault. Even though she was supposed to be commanding from orbit, she could not stay away from the battle that would decide the fate of the galaxy. Her fighter had been the first to strike back at the aliens, and she wanted to be there. At the end, the fortress defense systems were incredibly advanced, with energy fields that could stop projectiles and robots that could fight better than living soldiers. But the rebels had something the machines could not understand: the willingness to sacrifice everything for freedom. Major Seo Jae-mook coordinated the attack from the captured communication center, sending orders to rebel units throughout the city. His voice reached liberation forces on dozens of worlds, telling them that the final battle had begun. The entire galaxy was watching. The rebels finally reached the entrance to Lord Tyrant's personal chambers. The massive doors were made from metal, stronger than diamond, and protected by weapons that had never been defeated. But human engineering combined with alien technology found a way through. Captain Wu Jian was among the first to enter the chamber where the supreme leader waited. Lord Tyrant stood in armor that made him look like a giant robot. His personal weapons could level buildings, and his combat skills had been perfected over centuries of warfare. The battle with Lord Tyrant was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The supreme leader moved like lightning, striking with energy weapons that left craters in the walls. His armor deflected every shot, and his strength was beyond anything natural. But he faced something he had never encountered before: humans who refused to give up. Sergeant Major Quan Mingi threw herself at the tyrant, knowing it meant certain death. Her sacrifice disabled his shields for just a moment, giving the others their chance. Captain Wu Jae-yoon fired the shot that finally brought down the supreme leader. The most powerful being in the galaxy fell to a simple human weapon. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of distant explosions as the last council forces surrendered with Lord Tyrant's death. The resistance collapsed across the capital world. Council members who had ruled for centuries threw down their weapons and begged for mercy. The empire that had lasted 1,000 years died in a single day. The news of victory spread across the galaxy, faster than light itself. On every enslaved world, being celebrated in the streets as word came that the council was finished. The nightmare that had lasted for generations was finally over. But victory came at a terrible cost. Thousands of rebel soldiers had died in the final assault, including Sergeant Major Quan Mingi, who had given her life. To defeat the tyrant, the heroes who made freedom possible would never see the galaxy they had helped to liberate. General Ju Hejin stood in the ruins of the council chamber, looking at the empty throne where Lord Tyrant had ruled. The galaxy was free, but now came the harder task of building something better from the ashes of the old empire. Captain Lee Min-ho arrived from Earth to help establish the new government. He had been chosen to represent humanity in the Galactic Republic that would replace the Council. The humans, who had started as the galaxy's underdogs, were now its protectors and teachers. War was over, but the work of peace was just beginning. The galaxy had to learn how to live without masters and slaves, how to cooperate. Instead of dominate, the humans had shown that freedom was possible. Now they had to help others learn how to keep it. The fortress of Lord Tyrant stretched deep into the core of Zendros like a metal cancer that had grown for centuries. The corridors were filled with traps designed by the most brilliant minds in the galaxy and guarded by weapons that could kill in ways no one had ever imagined. Captain Wu Jian led the final assault team through passages lined with energy fields that could disintegrate living flesh. His squad moved carefully, knowing that each step might be their last the rebels had come too far to fail. Now, when victory was within reach, the team included soldiers from every corner of the galaxy, united by their hatred of the Council. Lieutenant Kim Dae-ho from Earth fought beside Commander Zeth from the mining worlds of Kepler. Major Park Soo-yang from the Agricultural Planet series worked with Captain Nala from the ocean world Aquatikich. Corridor they conquered brought them closer to Lord Tyrant, but the cost was terrible. Brave soldiers fell to hidden weapons and deadly traps their bodies left behind as the survivors pushed forward. The fortress seemed to go on forever, like descending into the heart of evil itself. Sergeant Major Quan Mingi had volunteered for this mission. Even though everyone knew most of the assault team would not survive, she carried explosives designed to breach the Tyrant's personal armor. Her daughter had died in the slave camps on Titan 7, and this was her chance for revenge. The deeper they went, the more dangerous the defenses became. Walls that looked solid suddenly revealed hidden guns. Energy beams shot from the ceiling without warning. Robot guardians appeared from concealed panels, moving faster than anything alive. Captain Wu Jian lost half his team before they reached the inner sanctum. The survivors were exhausted and running low on ammunition, but they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that billions of beings across the galaxy were counting on them. The final chamber was enormous, with a ceiling that stretched up into darkness. Lord Tyrant waited in the center, wearing armor that made him look like a mechanical god. His personal combat suit was the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Powered by the core of a dying star, the Supreme Leader spoke. In a voice like grinding metal, "You cannot defeat me, little insects. I have ruled this galaxy for 2 centuries, and I will rule for 2 centuries more. Your pathetic rebellion ends here with your deaths." Captain Wu Jian raised his weapon, knowing it was probably useless against the Tyrant's armor. "We are not insects," he replied. "We are free beings, and we refuse to live as your slaves." The other soldiers spread out, trying to surround their enemy. The battle began when Lord Tyrant fired energy beams from his armor that left smoking craters in the walls. The assault team scattered, diving for cover behind pillars and debris. The Tyrant's weapons were more powerful than anything they had ever faced. Lieutenant Kim Dae-ho tried to flank the Tyrant but was caught by a particle beam that disintegrated him instantly. Major Park Soo-yang fired a rocket launcher at the armored figure, but the missile bounced off harmlessly. The Tyrant laughed at their feeble attempts. Lord Tyrant moved across the chamber like a living weapon, striking down rebels with casual ease. His armor deflected every shot, and his strength allowed him to tear through metal barriers. The centuries of rule had not made him soft, but deadlier than ever. Commander Zeth charged the Tyrant with nothing but a vibroblade, knowing it was suicide. His sacrifice bought precious seconds for the others to reposition. The battle was hopeless, but none of the rebels considered retreating. Captain Nala used her species' natural camouflage to become nearly invisible as she crept closer to the Tyrant. Her people had been enslaved for 300 years, and she carried the rage of generations. The Tyrant sensed her approach and struck her down with contemptuous ease. Turning point came when Sergeant Major Quan Mingi realized that direct attacks were useless. She had studied the Tyrant's armor and found its weakness. The power source that made him invincible was also what would destroy him if it was disrupted. She ran straight at Lord Tyrant, ignoring the energy beams that burned through her body. Her explosives were designed to disrupt energy fields, not destroy armor. The Tyrant laughed as she approached, thinking she was just another desperate suicide attack. Major Quan Mingi detonated her charges not to kill the Tyrant, but to overload his armor systems. The explosion knocked out his shields and disrupted his weapons for just a few seconds. It was enough time for Captain Wu Jian to fire the shot that mattered. This simple projectile weapon pierced Lord Tyrant's armor at the weak point Sergeant Major Quan Mingi had created. The most powerful being in the galaxy staggered and fell, his mechanical voice fading to silence the Tyrant who had ruled for centuries. Died like any other mortal. The fortress systems shut down automatically when their master died. Emergency lights flickered on, revealing the bodies of heroes who had given everything for this moment. The survivors knelt beside their fallen comrades, knowing the galaxy was free because of their sacrifice. Captain Wu, Jaeon activated his communicator and sent the message that ended the war. Lord, Tyrant is dead. The Supreme Leader has fallen. The Galactic Council is finished. The word spread across the galaxy faster than light carried by rebel communication networks. Then Zendros, the remaining council forces surrendered when they learned their leader was dead. The government that had ruled for 1,000 years collapsed in hours as officials fled or begged for mercy. The age of the Galactic Council was over forever. Kralix, the galaxy-enslaved beings, celebrated in the streets of every world. Children who had never known freedom danced with joy while their parents wept. With relief, the nightmare that had lasted for generations was finally ending. Colonel Yu Sungmin arrived on Zendros to help establish the new government. He had been chosen to represent the Korean Republic in the Galactic Assembly that would replace the Council. The humans who had started this war as desperate defenders were now the galaxy's liberators. The work of building peace was harder than winning the war. Species that had been enemies for centuries had to learn to cooperate. Worlds that had been stripped of resources needed help to rebuild. The new Galactic Republic faced challenges that would take generations to solve. Captain Lee Minho became the first human ambassador to the Galactic Assembly. His job was to help write the Constitution that would guarantee freedom for every species. The humans insisted that no world could be ruled by another and that all beings had the right to choose their own destiny. Admiral Song Ji-hoon worked with former rebel commanders to create the new Galactic Defense Force. Their mission was to protect freedom, not spread conquest. The fleet would be made up of volunteers from every world working together to prevent tyranny from returning. Captain Park Ji-won established the first integrated flight training academy where pilots from hundreds of different species learned to work together. The diversity that had been the Council's weakness became the new galaxy's greatest strength. The memorial to the war heroes was built on Earth in the mountains of Korea. Where the defense had first been planned, the names of every being who died fighting for freedom were carved in stone. Sergeant Major Kwon Min-ji and thousands of others were honored as the liberators of the galaxy's past and the new republic. Grew stronger. Children who had been born in slavery learned to read and write in schools. Built on former prison worlds, the scars of the old empire slowly healed as free beings worked together to build something better. The legend of humanity spread. To every corner of the galaxy, other species told stories of the fierce warriors from the small blue planet who had dared to challenge the most powerful empire in history. They remembered how humans had shown that courage and determination could overcome any enemy. Earth became the symbol of freedom across the galaxy. Beings from distant worlds came to see the planet where the rebellion had started. The humans welcomed all visitors, sharing their knowledge and helping others learn the secrets of liberty. The war was over, but its lessons lived on. No species would ever again be allowed to rule over others. The galaxy had learned that freedom was worth any price, and that those who tried to destroy it would face the wrath of free beings. Everywhere the humans had proven that no empire could last forever if its subjects refused to accept slavery. They had shown that the fiercest species in the galaxy was not the one with the most powerful weapons, but the one with the strongest will to be free.